My mother tapped a spoon against a sweet tea glass and waited for the hardware store to go quiet. We were standing between the paint counter and a folding table covered with barbecue trays. Employees, relatives, suppliers, and some of our oldest customers had paper plates in their hands. My father stood beside a woman from the credit union. Courtney was near the register wearing a pale blue dress she couldn't afford. Mom smiled at me. "I want everybody to know what Kelsey is doing for this family," she said. That was the first time I heard what I had supposedly agreed to. My name is Kelsey Knight, and I'm 34 years old. If you've ever been treated like your reliability belonged to everyone except you, you'll understand why I stayed calm. Like the video and subscribe. Because what happened next had been building for years. 3 weeks before that luncheon, I was in the back office at Knight Hardware, trying to figure out why we had 48 brass cabinet pulls in the computer and only 26 on the shelf. Knight Hardware sits on Prince Street in Georgetown, South Carolina. My parents opened it before I was old enough to understand why every shirt my father owned had a pencil in the chest pocket. The building is narrow and deep, with old wood floors that creak near plumbing supplies. In summer, the front door sticks. In winter, the heater makes the back half smell faintly like dust. I had been managing most of the daily operations since 2014. Nobody had ever officially given me the job. There had been no meeting, raise, or new title. Dad had needed help for a few weeks after a medical procedure. I took over the employee schedule, supplier calls, and deposits. Then Mom decided I was better at handling customer accounts. Dad said I had a good head for inventory. A few weeks became a few months. By the time he was fully recovered, everybody had gotten used to asking me. I also had my own bookkeeping practice. I worked from a home office in the mornings, went to the store most afternoons, and finished client work at night. I had 9 steady business clients then. Most were small contractors and local shops. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. That Tuesday, I had a payroll report open on my laptop when Dad walked into the office. He set a foam cup beside my keyboard. "Brought you coffee." I looked at it. That usually means you need something. He laughed, but he didn't deny it. Dad was 63 and still opened the store most weekdays. He liked being at the front counter, especially with customers he'd known for years. He could explain the difference between 2 nearly identical drill bits without checking the package. He just hated the parts of running a business that happened behind a closed door. He pointed at the inventory screen. "What's wrong now? We're missing 22 cabinet pulls. We probably sold them. Then the sales aren't in the system. Could be a receiving problem. That's what I'm checking." He took the chair across from me and rubbed his thumb along the coffee lid. "Your mother wants to do another customer lunch." "When?" "End of the month." I stopped typing. "We did one in March. That was more of a spring sale. It had 2 tents and a catering bill. This one will be simpler." When my father said something would be simpler, he usually meant I would simplify it. "What has she promised?" I asked. "Nothing major. Barbecue, tea, maybe a few door prizes. How many people?" He looked toward the hallway. "She mentioned 60. Mentioned to whom?" "The caterer." I closed my eyes for a second. Dad pushed the coffee closer to me. "You're good at this stuff." There it was, not a request, not exactly. I opened the store calendar and found the date. Mom had already written Customer Appreciation Luncheon across the square in red marker. Under it, she'd listed a caterer, table rental, and the names of 3 suppliers. "You invited suppliers already?" "Your mother did. And I'm hearing about it now. You always handle these things." He said it with complete confidence. That was the problem. In my family, anything I had handled twice became something I always handled. I found the missing cabinet pulls before lunch. Dad had given a contractor 2 unopened boxes on account, then written the sale on the back of an old envelope. The envelope was under the register. I entered the sale, updated the customer balance, and clipped the envelope to the daily paperwork. That was my tiny victory for the morning. 22 cabinet pulls had not vanished. My father had simply created his own filing system again. At noon, Mom arrived with chicken salad sandwiches from a cafe down the street. Brenda Knight was 61, and she could make a meal feel like a meeting without saying it was one. She put a sandwich on my desk, moved a stack of invoices out of her way, and sat where Dad had been. "Your father told you about the lunch? He told me what you've already booked. It'll be good for the store." "It might be." "I need the caterer's count by Friday." I told her 80 to be safe. Dad said 60. Mom waved that away. People bring people. "So I need seating for 80. You'll work it out." She opened her sandwich and began eating. I waited because she had another reason for being there. Mom never crossed town at noon just to deliver food. Finally, she said, "Have you talked to your sister?" "Not this week. She's having a rough time." Courtney was 31, 3 years younger than me, and she'd been having a rough time in some form since she opened her boutique. The store was called Hearth and Harbor. It sold upholstered chairs, imported lamps, linen table runners, and candles with names like Salt House Morning. Courtney had chosen a storefront with tall windows and white brick walls. At the opening, Mom called it the kind of business Georgetown needed. Courtney was the ambitious one. That was how my parents described her. I was the practical one. Those labels sounded harmless until you noticed what they allowed. Ambition received money, praise, and second chances. Practicality received extra keys. "What happened now?" I asked. Mom folded the edge of her napkin. "Sales have been slow. They've been slow since January." She had some good weekends. She also had rent due every month. Mom's mouth tightened. "You don't have to sound pleased about it." "I'm not pleased. I'm asking what happened." "She may close." That got my attention. 2 days earlier, Courtney had posted a picture of new dining chairs with the caption, "Big things coming." I'd assumed she had another shipment arriving. "Does Courtney know she may close?" I asked. "Of course she knows. Then why hasn't she told me?" Mom looked down at her sandwich. "She feels like you judge her." "I do her sales tax returns. That's business. This is personal." Courtney had never had trouble mixing business and personal when she needed me to fix something. I had driven to the boutique on Sunday mornings to reconcile her card payments. I had corrected duplicate vendor bills. Once I spent an entire evening rebuilding a month of sales after she changed software without exporting anything. I wasn't her regular bookkeeper. She said she wanted someone who understood luxury retail. I was the person she called when that bookkeeper stopped answering on weekends. "How bad is it?" I asked. Mom glanced toward the office door. "Your father knows more." That answer stayed with me. Dad did not know more about Courtney's books than I did. He barely opened his own bank statements. If he knew more, then Courtney's problem involved something she hadn't shown me. I lowered my voice. "Does she owe vendors? Some? Rent? I think she's behind. Payroll?" "No, nothing like that." "Then what does Dad know?" Mom gathered the plastic wrap from her sandwich. "We're all going to sit down soon." "When?" "When Courtney's ready." She stood and touched my shoulder on her way out. "Try not to make her feel worse." That was another family rule. Courtney could create the emergency, but I was responsible for the temperature in the room. I didn't call her that day. I wanted to, but I knew how it would go. She would hear one direct question as criticism. Then Mom would call and ask why I had upset her. Instead, I finished the store schedule and went home at 6. My office was the smallest bedroom in my house. I had a white desk, 2 filing cabinets, and a printer that made a grinding sound before every third page. I worked until almost 10, then noticed a text from Courtney. "Can you meet at Mom and Dad's tomorrow night?" I typed. "About the store?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and came back. Just family stuff. I almost called her. Instead, I wrote, "What time?" She answered, 7. When I arrived the next evening, Dad's truck was in the driveway and Courtney's white sport utility vehicle was parked partly on the grass. Through the front window, I could see all 3 of them at the dining table. Courtney had a stack of papers in front of her. She turned them face down when I walked in. Mom stood. "Do you want tea?" "I'm fine. You always want tea." "Then yes." I sat across from Courtney. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot and she kept twisting a gold ring around her right hand. "What's going on?" I asked. Dad leaned back in his chair. "We're trying to get a full picture." "Of what?" Courtney looked at him. I looked at the papers she had turned over. Is the boutique closing? Maybe, she said. What does maybe mean? It means I'm considering my options. Dad cut in. She's had a difficult quarter. Courtney gave him a grateful look. That told me he had already chosen his position. Mom returned with my tea and set it beside me. Nobody said anything until she sat down. I asked Courtney, "Do you have enough cash to make next payroll?" "Yes." "Rent?" She looked at Mom. "Not all of it." "How far behind?" 1 month. "What are the other debts?" Courtney's face changed. It was small, just a pause before she answered. I noticed because numbers make people pause in very specific ways. "There's business financing," she said. "What kind?" "A term loan and equipment financing." "How much is left?" Dad said. "We don't need to get buried in every detail tonight." I turned to him. "Then why am I here?" "We want to talk about a family solution." I picked up my tea but didn't drink it. Courtney pushed one page toward the center of the table. It was a payment schedule. Most of the page was covered in rows of dates and amounts. The balance near the top was $92,400. For a few seconds, I thought I had read it wrong. I looked at Courtney. "You owe this much?" It wasn't all spent irresponsibly. I didn't say it was. You were thinking it. Where did the money go? Build out, inventory, display fixtures, delivery equipment. Starting a real store costs money. Knight Hardware was apparently not a real store. I let that go. "What are you asking me to do?" Mom placed both hands flat on the table. We've discussed it carefully. The word we did a lot of work there. Dad said, "The credit union is willing to restructure the balance." "For Courtney?" "For the family," Mom said. "There is no family loan account. Whose name is on it?" Courtney stared at the paper. Dad leaned forward. "Kelsey, you're in the strongest position." "What position?" "You have good income. Your house payment is reasonable. You don't have children depending on you." The room became very still. Mom spoke quickly, as if speed could make it sound kinder. "You're dependable, honey. Everybody knows that. You're unmarried, your business is doing well, and you have room to help. How much room do you think I have?" "This wouldn't be forever," Courtney said. "I'd pay you back." "With what?" "My next business." I looked at her. "This business hasn't closed yet, and you're talking about the next one." Her chair scraped the floor. Dad lifted a hand. "That's enough." "No, I'm trying to understand. Are you asking me to make payments for a few months?" Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Mom said, "We told the credit union you would assume the remaining balance." I set my tea down. "You told them what?" "They needed to know we had a plan," Dad said. "You gave them my name?" "We said you were willing to step in," Mom replied. "I never said that." "You would have, if we'd had time to explain." Courtney leaned toward me. "Please don't turn this into a wording issue." "It's not a wording issue. You offered my income to a lender." Dad's voice hardened. "Nobody offered your income. Then what did you tell them I was using to pay $92,400? He didn't answer. Mom reached for my hand. I moved it into my lap before she touched me. "The luncheon is already arranged," she said. "The credit union representative can bring the final paperwork there. It'll be easy, and it shows everyone the family is standing together." That explained the suppliers. It explained why the guest count had grown. The customer lunch wasn't only a store event anymore. My mother had built a room full of witnesses around an agreement I had never made. I looked at Courtney. "Did you know they were telling people I agreed?" Her eyes filled, but she didn't look surprised. "Kelsey, I'm going to pay you back." "That isn't what I asked." Dad pushed the payment schedule closer to me. "Take this home. Look at the numbers. You'll see it's manageable." I left the paper where it was. "No." Mom's face tightened. "Don't make a decision while you're upset. I'm not making one." "Then what are you saying?" I stood and picked up my purse. "I'm saying I won't promise anything from a payment schedule." Dad looked annoyed. "What else do you need?" "The complete loan file. Every signed page, every amendment, every notice, and anything the credit union expects me to sign." Courtney looked at Mom. Dad stopped tapping his finger on the table. That silence gave me the first useful answer of the night. There was something in the full file they hadn't put in front of me. "Send it to my home office," I said. "Until I read it, the answer is no." Dad stood as I reached the dining room doorway. "Kelsey, sit back down. I have work in the morning, so do the rest of us." Courtney gave a short laugh. "My store may be gone in a month, but sure, let's talk about your schedule." I looked at her, then at the papers. "Send the complete file." Mom followed me into the front hall. "You didn't even finish your tea. I'm not thirsty. We were trying to include you. You included my name before you included me." She lowered her voice. "Your father is under a lot of strain. Then he should stop volunteering things that aren't his. You know that's not what he meant." I put my hand on the front doorknob. What did he mean? Mom opened her mouth, but Dad called from the dining room. "Let her go, Brenda." He made it sound like I was the one causing a scene. I left before I said something that would keep me awake. At home, I put my purse on the kitchen counter and stood there with the lights off. My phone buzzed before I had taken off my shoes. It was Courtney. I watched it ring. When it stopped, a text appeared. "I really needed you tonight." I typed 3 different answers and erased all of them. The last one was, "You needed my signature." I deleted that too. At 6 the next morning, Dad called. I answered because a call that early usually meant the store alarm had gone off. "Can you open up?" he asked. I sat upright. "Why?" "I didn't sleep much." "Is something wrong?" "No, I just need an extra hour." The delivery truck from our main supplier was due at 7. If nobody opened the loading door, the driver would continue to Charleston and come back the next day. We would be charged for the second trip. Dad knew that. I knew that. Neither of us said it. "Fine," I told him. "Thank you, sweetheart." That one word did what it always did. It made the request feel warmer after I had already agreed. I dressed, tied my hair back, and drove toward Prince Street with coffee in a travel mug. The sky over the river was just starting to lighten. Georgetown is quiet at that hour. Delivery vans were parked outside restaurants, and 2 men were hosing the sidewalk near the corner. I unlocked the front door at 6:42. The store keys were on a brass ring that had belonged to Dad. There were 6 keys on it: front door, back door, office, side gate, storage cage, and the small key for the cash drawer. The brass store key was worn smooth around the teeth. Dad had given me the ring in 2014. "Just until I'm back to normal," he had said. I had carried it for 12 years. The delivery driver arrived early. I raised the loading door, checked the pallet count, and found 3 cases of exterior sealant we hadn't ordered. The driver wanted to leave them and let the office sort it out. "If I sign for them, they become my problem," I said. He checked his handheld scanner again. "Wrong store," he admitted. He rolled the cases back onto the truck. That saved us almost $900 and at least 2 weeks of arguing over a credit. By 7:30, Dana had arrived to work the front register. She found me cutting plastic wrap from a pallet of garden sprayers. "Where's Mark?" she asked. "Coming later." She nodded as if that was normal. It was normal. Dad arrived at 8:15 carrying 2 biscuits in a paper bag. "Look at you," he said. "You've got half the day done." I handed him the delivery sheet. "I refused 3 cases that belonged to another store. Good catch." He put the bag on the counter. "I got you sausage. I already ate. You can save it." He walked toward the office without asking what had arrived or what still needed checking. He knew I had it handled. That used to feel like trust. I finished receiving the order, printed shelf labels, and answered 2 calls from customers looking for parts. I should have left at 8. I had a contractor's monthly books waiting in my office at home. At 9, Dad came out holding a supplier statement. "Can you look at this before you go?" "I'm already late. It'll take you 5 minutes." It took 27. One payment had been applied to the wrong invoice. Dad had called about it the week before but hadn't written down the name of the person he spoke to. I found the bank confirmation, emailed it to the supplier, and requested a corrected statement. While I was doing that, Mom walked in. She set her purse behind the counter and smiled like the previous night had ended well. "You opened for your father. That was kind. The truck was coming." "I know. Still." She placed a clear plastic folder on the desk. I brought information for the luncheon. Inside were the caterer's menu, a handwritten guest list, and a quote for folding tables. I flipped through it. There are 106 names here. Some won't come. You told the caterer 80. She can add trays. That's not how a final count works. Mom leaned over my shoulder and pointed to the list. The Fletchers may be out of town. Cross them off. I'm not managing this today. She blinked. I just need you to call the caterer. I need to work. This is work. No, this is a lunch you planned. For our store. She said our in a way that included me whenever there was labor involved. Dad appeared in the doorway. What's the problem? There isn't one, Mom said. Kelsey's tired. I'm behind on client work. He looked at the folder. The lunch can wait. Mom gave me a small, wounded look and closed it. Of course it can. I knew that look. I had seen it when I missed her birthday breakfast because one of my clients had a payroll problem. I had seen it when I said I couldn't drive Dad to Charleston for an appointment that Courtney had already promised to handle. Courtney canceled that morning because she had a vendor call. I moved 2 client meetings and drove him. Afterward, Mom thanked both of us in the family group text. Courtney got thanked for trying. I got thanked for going. At the time, I told myself it didn't matter. Dad made his appointment. My clients understood. Nobody had been harmed. That was how I measured things then. If I could absorb the problem without anything visibly breaking, I called it fine. Mom picked up the luncheon folder. I'll handle it. Thank you. She stayed beside the desk. I waited. Finally, I asked, did you request the loan file? Courtney has been looking for it. The credit union has it. She has copies. I want the complete packet from the credit union, not whatever pages Courtney finds. Mom's expression became careful. You don't trust your sister? I don't trust an incomplete file. Those aren't the same thing? No. Dad shifted behind her. The workout officer can explain everything at the luncheon. I'm not waiting until then to see the papers. No one is hiding papers, he said. Good. Then sending them should be easy. Mom glanced at him. It lasted less than a second, but I saw it. She tucked the folder under her arm. I'll call Courtney. Please have her request the packet today. You know she's trying to close out inventory. I know. Mom walked to the front of the store. Dad stayed in the office doorway. You could be a little softer with her, he said. Courtney owes more than this store makes in some years. That's why she's scared. I'm scared too. He frowned as if that hadn't occurred to him. Of what? I looked at him. He honestly didn't know. I closed the supplier account on my laptop. I have to go. On the way out, Dana stopped me near the paint counter. Could you approve my schedule change for next Thursday? Dad can do it. He told me to ask you. Dad was 15 feet away. I looked toward him. He was showing a customer a box of masonry screws. What do you need? I asked. My sister has a medical appointment. I can come in at noon instead of 9 if that's okay. That's fine. Trade the first 3 hours with Leon and write it on the calendar. Already asked him. He said yes. Then you're covered. She smiled. Thanks, Kelsey. I knew you'd know what to do. I approved the change. In my car, I sat with both hands on the steering wheel. I could see Dad through the front window. He had finished with the customer. He was laughing with Dana now, completely unaware that I had just made another staffing decision for his business. Or maybe he was aware. Maybe that was the point. I drove home and opened my client files. I tried to work, but at 11:20, Courtney called. This time I answered. Did Mom tell you to request the packet? She exhaled loudly. Good morning to you too. Good morning. Did she? Yes. And? I emailed the credit union. Thank you. You could sound less suspicious. I asked for information before taking on a debt. You make it sound like I'm trying to trick you. I haven't said that. You don't have to. I waited. Courtney lowered her voice. I could hear traffic behind her. I'm already embarrassed, Kelsey. I understand. No, you don't. Your business is fine. You always know exactly what's coming in and going out. That isn't luck. I didn't say it was. You said it like my business just happened to be fine. She went quiet. I looked at the open ledger on my monitor. A client had paid me that morning. Most of it would cover my mortgage, insurance, and quarterly taxes. I was comfortable because I planned around every dollar. My family treated that planning like unused capacity. Courtney said, "Dad believes this can work." Did Dad read the loan documents? Of course he did. That answer came too quickly. Were you there when he read them? What does that have to do with anything? I'm asking. He helped me from the beginning. How? He came to meetings. He talked to people. He believed in me. There was real hurt in her voice. Not guilt, not yet, hurt. Dad had gone to her meetings. When I started my bookkeeping practice, he let me use the hardware store printer for 2 weeks. Then Mom told me toner was expensive, so I bought my own. I hadn't asked Dad to attend meetings. I hadn't had meetings to attend. I built my client list one person at a time, mostly through referrals from contractors who knew me from the store. Still, hearing Courtney say it made something settle into place. Dad hadn't simply approved of her business. He had been involved. Who arranged the financing, I asked. The credit union did. I know who issued it. Who helped you apply? Dad knew someone there. Did Mom attend? Sometimes. And neither of them mentioned any of this to me? Courtney's voice sharpened. It was my business. It became family business when you offered it to me. Mom and Dad are trying to help by using my name. They knew you'd be reasonable. There it was again. Reasonable meant I would do whatever prevented the rest of them from facing the full result of a decision. I asked, "Why didn't you come to me before you missed payments? Because I knew you'd give me that look." What look? The one where you already know what I did wrong. I could have helped you make a plan. I didn't want a plan. I wanted the store to work. She started crying then, quietly. I heard her take a breath and try to hide it. 2 days earlier, I would have changed my tone. I would have told her we would figure something out. I would have offered to review her books that night. My mouth even formed the beginning of the sentence. Instead, I said, "Send the packet when the credit union gives it to you. I have to go." She ended the call. I sat there feeling cruel, although I hadn't insulted her or raised my voice. I had only declined to comfort her before she answered me. That feeling was familiar, too. I opened a blank spreadsheet. In the first column, I wrote the date. In the second, I wrote what I had done at Night Hardware that morning. Opened store, received delivery, corrected supplier payment, approved schedule change. In the third column, I entered the time. 3 hours and 12 minutes. I stared at the total. Then I went back through my calendar and entered the previous week. By lunchtime, I had recorded 26 unpaid hours. I knew the list was incomplete. I also knew I had never kept one before. My phone lit up with a message from Mom. Courtney says the credit union will send the workout packet tomorrow. A second message arrived. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I saved the spreadsheet under my own business records, closed the store calendar on my screen, and replied with 4 words. I'll read everything first. Mom didn't answer. The next morning, there was no packet in my email. Nothing came by noon either. At 12:15, I received a calendar invitation from someone named Elaine Porter at the credit union. The subject line said proposed workout meeting. The location was Night Hardware, and the time matched the customer luncheon. In the notes, she had written, documents to be reviewed and executed in person. I read that sentence twice. My parents hadn't only told the credit union I was willing, they had scheduled a signing. The invitation showed Courtney, Dad, and Mom as attendees. My address had been added last. I didn't accept it. I didn't decline it either. Instead, I opened the credit union's website and called the main number. I didn't use the phone number in the invitation. I wanted to know I was speaking to the actual institution before I gave anyone personal information. A representative answered after a few minutes. How can I help you today? I need to confirm whether I'm listed on any open loan account with your credit union. Are you a member? No. She asked for my full name, address, and the last 4 digits of my Social Security number. Then she sent a verification code to my phone. I gave her the code. I'm not finding a membership under your information, she said. Would I need a membership to be liable on a business loan? That depends on the loan. I'm asking because I received an invitation to a workout meeting for someone else's business debt. She paused. Are you the borrower? No. Are you a guarantor? I don't know. I've never signed anything. If you didn't sign a guarantee, you wouldn't become one without knowing. Can you check whether my name appears on any active credit obligation there? I can confirm there is nothing connected to the information you verified. That was the first clean answer I had received. No loan at that credit union was currently attached to me. I wrote the representative's name and the time of the call in my notebook. Can you tell me why I was invited to a workout meeting? I can't access another member's loan without permission. I understand. I'm not asking for their balance or payment history. I'm asking whether your credit union schedules documents for execution based on a third party, saying someone agreed. I wouldn't be able to speak to that. Who can? She put me on hold. I listened to the same piano phrase repeat 4 times. When she returned, her voice was more formal. I can transfer you to Ms. Porter's voicemail. She handles business workout files. Thank you. The call clicked over. You've reached Elaine Porter. Please leave your name, number, and the account or business name associated with your call. I waited for the tone. My name is Kelsey Knight. I received a meeting invitation concerning a business obligation for Hearth and Harbor. I have not agreed to assume or guarantee any debt. I'm requesting the documents connected to the proposed meeting before I attend. Please call me at this number. I ended the call and took a picture of the notebook page. Then I returned to my client work. At 1:30, Dad texted, "Need you at store around 3. Register is acting up." I wrote back, "What is it doing? Freezing on card sales." I called Dana. She answered from the stockroom. "Hey, Kelsey, what's happening with the register?" It froze once. I restarted it. "Is it working now?" "Yes." "Did Dad ask you to call the service company? He said you'd come." "Of course he did. Run one small test sale. If it works, print the receipt and staple it to the daily sheet." "Okay. You don't need me there unless it freezes again." She lowered her voice. That's what I told him. I smiled despite myself. "Thank you." The test sale went through. Dana texted me a picture of the receipt. I forwarded it to Dad with, "Register is working." Dana restarted it. "Call service if it freezes again." He replied with a thumbs up. 10 minutes later, Mom called. "Are you coming to the store?" "No. The register is fine. Your father thought you were coming. I told him it was working. Well, while you're there, we need to discuss the luncheon tables." "I'm not there." She went quiet. I could hear the cash drawer opening in the background. "You're usually here on Thursdays. I have a quarterly review with a client at 4. Can't you move it?" "No. Kelsey, nobody is asking you to give up your work. You just asked me to move it. I meant an hour. My clients schedule time too." Her voice softened. "You seem determined to be difficult this week." I called the credit union. The background noise stopped. "You did what?" I called to confirm whether I have any existing obligation there. "Why would you do that?" "Because I received an invitation to sign documents." Mom took a breath. "We were trying to save you the trouble of knowing what I'm signing, of dealing with all the back and forth. Courtney is already overwhelmed. Then Courtney shouldn't be coordinating my paperwork. It isn't your paperwork yet." The yet landed between us. I wrote it down. "Who told Elaine Porter I agreed?" I asked. "Your father spoke with her. Was Courtney on the call?" "I don't remember." "You were there?" "For part of it." "What exactly did Dad say?" "Kelsey, I'm standing at the front counter. You called me." A customer said something near her. Mom covered the phone and answered. Then she came back. "We said the family had a way to resolve the loan. Did you use my name?" She needed to know who would be assuming payments. That wasn't my question. "Yes, we gave her your name. Did you tell her I had agreed?" Mom didn't answer immediately. "We told her you're dependable. That isn't consent. You're making this sound sinister. I'm trying to find out what you said. We said you were willing to help. That was false." "We believed it." I moved my client folder aside and stared at the wall. "You believed I would agree, or you told her I already had?" Mom's voice became thin. "I'm not doing this over the phone. Then send the packet. Courtney is waiting for it. The credit union told me they need her permission to share the file." Has she given it? I assume so. Ask her. I have customers. She hung up. My hands were steady, but I had pressed the pen so hard into my notebook that the last line tore the paper. I had my client review at 4. The owner of a small roofing company sat across from me in my office while we went through his labor costs. He had hired 2 more people and wanted to know whether the company could afford another truck. We looked at insurance, fuel, repairs, and the payments he already had. You can manage it, I told him, but only if the monthly payment stays below this amount. I turned the screen toward him. He studied the number. The dealer says, I can go higher. The dealer gets paid when you buy the truck. He laughed. Fair point. Get the full financing offer in writing. Don't decide from a monthly payment alone. The sentence felt strange coming out of my mouth. He didn't notice. He wrote down the number and thanked me. After he left, I sat in the quiet office. My advice to clients was always simple. Read every page. Confirm every obligation. Don't confuse what someone says you can afford with what you can safely carry. With my family, I had treated those same rules as rude. Elaine Porter returned my call at 5:20. Ms. Knight? Yes, I received your voicemail. Before we discuss anything, I need to be clear that I can't disclose details of the borrower's file without written authorization. I understand. I can discuss the meeting invitation because it was sent directly to you. That's all I'm asking about right now. She sounded careful but not unfriendly. My understanding was that you had agreed in principle to a proposed assumption. I haven't. There was a short silence. All right, she said. Who gave you that understanding? The borrower and guarantor participated in the workout discussion. She didn't name them, and I didn't ask her to. Courtney was the borrower. I still didn't know who the guarantor was, only that there was one. Was my mother part of the discussion? I'm not going to identify participants beyond the account parties. Fair enough. Did anyone provide you with something signed by me? No. Did anyone claim they had something signed by me? No, I wrote that down too. Then why does the invitation say documents will be executed? Because I was advised that the proposed assuming party was prepared to review and execute them at the meeting. I was advised of the meeting after it was scheduled. I see. She paused again. Ms. Knight, I'm going to add a note that you have not given verbal or written consent. Thank you. That does not cancel the workout meeting. The borrower still has an active default to address. I'm not asking you to cancel it. Once we receive authorization, the workout packet can be sent for your review. Until then, I can't discuss the terms. Can the meeting happen at a public business event? Is that normal? It isn't how I would usually choose to hold a workout meeting. That was useful. Why did you agree to it? I was told there would be a private office available and that the timing was important to the proposed resolution. The back office at Knight Hardware had one door and no soundproofing. Anyone near plumbing supplies could hear a normal conversation inside. Who sent you my email address? I received it with the meeting request. Was it represented as my business email? Yes. Nobody had asked permission to share that either. Elaine continued, I'll resend the invitation with the wording adjusted. It should not suggest execution is certain. Please don't remove me. You still want to attend? I want to know what is being proposed. All right. I'll leave you listed as tentative. After we hung up, a new invitation arrived. The subject line was still proposed workout meeting. The notes now read, documents available for review, any execution subject to individual consent. My deliberate call had changed the written record. It hadn't changed my family. At 6, Courtney sent me a screenshot of an email from the credit union. The top showed that an authorization form was attached. Can you stop calling people and give me one day? She wrote. I replied, sign the authorization and send it back. She called immediately. Do you understand how humiliating this is? You defaulted on a loan. The workout officer already knows. That's not what I mean. She called me and asked whether you had actually agreed. What did you tell her? I told her we were still discussing it. That's not what she had been told before. Dad was trying to keep the account from moving forward. Moving forward to what? Collections, I guess. I don't know. You should know. I have people coming into the boutique asking if fixtures are discounted. I have vendors emailing me. Mom is planning this ridiculous lunch because she thinks it will make everything look normal. I can't answer every question at once. Her voice cracked on the last sentence. I kept mine level. Sign the authorization. What if you read everything and still say no? Then I say no with the facts. You've already decided. I've decided I won't sign blind. Courtney was quiet for several seconds. Then she said, Dad put his name on something when I opened. That's why they're panicking. My pen stopped. What did he put his name on? I don't know. There were a lot of papers. You were the borrower. You signed them. I signed where they told me. Was it a guarantee? I said, I don't know. Why didn't you mention this last night? Because Dad said it wouldn't matter once you took over the balance. There was the inconsistency I had been listening for. My parents said I was helping Courtney. Courtney had just admitted they were trying to relieve Dad, too. Send the authorization, I said. She ended the call without answering. At 7:12, an email arrived from Courtney with the credit union copied. Attached is my authorization to release the complete workout packet to Kelsey Knight. Elaine replied 6 minutes later. Received. The complete packet will be sent tomorrow after internal review. I printed both emails and placed them in a plain folder. Then I declined the next afternoon's store shift on the shared calendar and marked the time unavailable. I wasn't going to Knight Hardware until I had read what my family kept trying to place in my hands without showing me. The following morning, Dad texted before 8. Saw calendar. Need you Friday afternoon. I replied, I'm unavailable. For what? Client work. He didn't answer. At 9:30, Elaine emailed that the packet had cleared review and had been delivered to the borrower's designated family contact. She didn't identify the contact. 10 minutes later, Mom forwarded an email with a large attachment. Her message said, This is what you asked for. Please focus on the payment options near the end. Your father thinks the longer schedule is best. I downloaded the attachment to my computer. It was 73 pages. I printed the whole thing. My printer complained twice, then ran out of paper with 6 pages left. I refilled the tray and waited while the last pages came through. I kept them in order on the floor beside my desk. The packet began with a cover letter to Courtney. It stated that Hearth and Harbor was in default and that the credit union was willing to consider a workout arrangement instead of moving ahead with collection. The next section listed the remaining balances for the original term loan and the equipment financing. Together they came to $92,400. That number was real. So were the missed payments, late notices, and failed automatic withdrawals. Courtney hadn't missed one payment during a bad month. She'd been falling behind for almost half a year. I made notes in the margin but didn't call anyone. The payment options Mom wanted me to focus on came near the back. One would stretch the balance over a longer period. Another required a large payment up front, followed by smaller monthly payments. Both assumed that someone acceptable to the credit union would take responsibility. My name appeared in a typed summary. Proposed assuming party, Kelsey Knight. Under that, someone had entered my occupation and estimated annual income. The income figure was wrong. It was close enough to look believable, but it was higher than what I had reported the previous year. I had never given that number to Courtney. I checked the pages behind it. There was a short personal financial worksheet with my address, my business name, and an estimate of my home's value. No bank account numbers were included. No social security number appeared. Most of the boxes were blank. At the top, in small print, it said draft for discussion only. I circled the word draft. Then I reached the original loan documents. Courtney had signed as the borrower in 2024. Her signature was on the term loan, equipment schedule, and security agreement covering the boutique's fixtures, inventory, and delivery equipment. Dad's name appeared as a witness on one page. It appeared again 3 pages later. Personal guarantee was printed across the top. The wording underneath was dense, but I didn't need to understand every sentence. I knew what a guarantee was. If Courtney's business didn't pay, the person who signed that page had agreed to answer for the debt. There was one guarantor listed, Mark Knight. Dad's signature was at the bottom. Mom's name wasn't there. Mine wasn't there. There was no second guarantor and no reference to a family obligation. Only Dad. I sat back in my chair. For the first time, his behavior at the dining table made complete sense. He hadn't been speaking as a worried father trying to help one daughter. He was a guarantor trying to move his own exposure onto the other one. I didn't feel triumphant. I looked at his signature and remembered him telling me he had only come to Courtney's meetings because he believed in her. Courtney had said he put his name on something. Neither of them had been willing to say what it was. The guarantee page answered that question. It also changed the question I needed answered next. Could they transfer his responsibility to me because they had already made a family agreement without me? I kept reading. The last section contained the proposed debt assumption agreement. My name had been typed into the first paragraph. Courtney's business was listed as the existing borrower. The credit union was listed as the lender. The agreement said the transfer would become effective only after approval and execution by all required parties. I turned to the signature page. Courtney had a line. The credit union had a line. I had a line. Mine was blank. Above it were the words, assuming party, voluntary acceptance. There was no signature from Dad because he wasn't the person assuming anything. He was the person they wanted released after I did. I read the entire form again. Nothing in the packet said my parents could sign for me. Nothing said a family decision carried legal weight. Nothing said my income, unmarried status, or reputation for being dependable created an obligation. The form required me to agree. I hadn't. I separated the guarantee page and the blank signature page from the rest of the packet. I didn't remove them permanently. I copied them, returned the originals to their places, and checked the page numbers twice. Then I called Elaine. I received the packet, I said. Good. Do you have questions? 1. For now. Is the debt assumption agreement effective without the proposed assuming party's signature? No. Can anyone else consent on that person's behalf? Not unless there is valid legal authority allowing them to sign for that person. Nobody has that authority for me. Then no. Does attending the meeting create consent? No. Does discussing payment options? No. Does being related to the borrower or guarantor? No. She answered each question plainly. I looked at Dad's signature while she spoke. So if I don't sign, the current obligations stay where they are. I need to be careful about discussing account details, even with the authorization. I'm not asking who owes what. I'm asking what happens to a proposed assumption that isn't signed. It doesn't become effective. That was enough. Please note that I'm reviewing the documents, but I have not accepted anything. I already noted your earlier statement. I'll add that you received the packet. Thank you. Are you planning to attend the meeting? Yes. Would you prefer to meet at the credit union instead? I considered it. A private meeting would have been easier. I could have declined in a conference room and gone home. Dad would have been angry. Mom would have cried. And Courtney would have blamed me. At least it would have been contained. But the luncheon was still a customer event at my parents' store. I was expected to help run it whether the loan meeting happened or not. If I requested a location change, Elaine would contact the account parties. My parents would know I was looking beyond the payment schedule. I'll attend at Knight Hardware, I said. All right, I'll bring a complete copy of the agreement. Please bring the original guarantee page too. She paused. You have that page in the packet. I know. I want the credit union's copy available at the meeting. I can do that. After the call, I placed my copies in the plain folder with Courtney's authorization and Elaine's corrected invitation. I wrote the date and time of our conversation on a note and clipped it inside. Then I closed the folder and put it in the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. At noon, Mom called. Did you get everything? Yes. Did you see the longer payment option? I saw it. It's much lower per month. It lasts longer, but Courtney can take over payments later, once she gets settled. Where will she be working? She's considering several things. such as, "This isn't the time to question every idea she has." I asked where the repayment money would come from. Mom sighed. "You always make things so cold. I'm reading a workout packet." You know what I mean. I did. She wanted me to say Courtney's intentions mattered more than the numbers. She wanted me to make the same choice Dad had made. "Did you read the packet?" I asked. "Most of it." "Did Dad?" "He knows what he signed." That was the first time Mom admitted he had signed anything. I kept my voice even. "What does he think I'm signing?" "The new payment arrangement. What happens to him afterward?" "Kelsey, I'm not discussing your father's personal finances. You're asking me to change mine. It's one family problem. No, it's Courtney's business loan, and your father helped her because that's what parents do." I looked toward the filing cabinet. "He can't carry that payment. Neither can I. You haven't even tried." That sentence told me more about my place in the family than she intended. I had not failed to carry the debt. I had failed to try. Mom continued, "Your father and I have retirement savings, but if we use too much of it, we'll be in trouble later. And if I use mine, you're younger. You can rebuild." I got up and walked to the kitchen for water. I needed movement more than I needed the drink. "So that's the plan?" I asked. "Protect your savings by using my future income? Nobody is using you. Then stop speaking as if my signature is already on the form." She became very quiet. "You found the assumption form. It wasn't a question. It was in the packet. I told you to look at the payment options. I read everything. You don't need to pick apart every word. I'm a bookkeeper. Reading every word is the only reason anyone asks me for help." Mom made a frustrated sound. "This family has supported you too." I waited for an example. She said, "You use the store address for some business mail. I stopped doing that 3 years ago. Your father sent customers to you. 2 customers. 1 still works with me. You had a place here when you needed one. I have never lived in that house. I mean emotionally." That answer was so vague I almost laughed. I didn't. Mom said, "We made sacrifices for both our daughters. Then tell me what sacrifice Courtney is making now. She's losing her business. That isn't a sacrifice she chose for someone else. You're determined not to understand. I understand the packet." I stopped there. I didn't mention the guarantee. I didn't mention my call with Elaine. I didn't tell Mom that the page she wanted me to ignore was the only page that required anything from me. She mistook my silence for uncertainty. "Come to dinner Sunday," she said. "We can talk calmly. Will Courtney be there?" "Of course." "And Dad? It's his house. I'll come." Her voice softened immediately. "Good. Bring the payment schedule. Your father wants to show you what they can contribute each month. They, not Courtney." "I have the packet," I said. After we hung up, I opened the spreadsheet where I had started recording my store hours. I added the previous month. Then I opened the cloud bookkeeping account I used for Night Hardware. My personal business email was the administrator. Dad's store email was only a standard user because he had never completed the setup. I didn't remove myself. That would alert him. I created a list of everything that would need to change if I stopped managing the store. Bank feed permissions, payroll access, supplier logins, employee records, sales tax reminders, the alarm contact, the spare set of keys in my kitchen drawer. The list filled 2 pages. By the time I finished, I understood that refusing the debt would not be enough. My family could survive one unsigned form and still expect me to return the next morning, unlock the door, and repair whatever happened afterward. At 4:30, Dana texted me a photograph of a printed luncheon invitation sitting beside the register. "Mom says these go in every customer bag. Is this wording right?" Across the bottom, beneath the barbecue menu and door prize list, Mom had added one sentence. "Please join us for a special announcement from the Knight family." I zoomed in on those words, then saved the photograph to the folder with the loan papers. I called Dana. "How many have gone out? Maybe 30. Who approved the wording?" "Brenda brought them from the printer." "Has she told you what the announcement is?" Dana hesitated. "She said it's about Courtney." "What about her?" "I don't know if I'm supposed to say. She used my name, didn't she? Another pause. She said you were helping with the boutique. How? I thought you knew. I'm asking what she told you. Dana lowered her voice. She said you were taking over the financial side so Courtney could get back on her feet. I looked at the invitation on my screen. Did she say I had agreed? Yes, that was the useful part, even though I hated hearing it. Thank you for telling me. Is it not true? No agreement has been signed. Oh, if anyone asks, please don't speak for me. Just tell them the announcement is Mom's. All right, I don't want you in the middle. I think we're already in the middle. She wasn't wrong. I drove to the store before closing. Mom's car was parked near the side entrance. Through the front window, I saw her putting invitations into shopping bags behind the register. I went in and took one from the stack. She watched me read it. It's a nice design, she said. Remove the last sentence. Why? There is no family announcement. There will be. About the store? About all of us pulling together. That isn't a store announcement. It's our customer lunch. We can say whatever we want. Then don't use my name when you say it. She straightened the stack against the counter. I haven't used your name on the invitation. You used it with Dana. That was a private conversation. She's an employee. She asked why the credit union woman was coming. I glanced toward the office. Elaine has been discussed with employees? People notice things. Only when you tell them. Mom slid an invitation into another bag. You're turning a kind gesture into something ugly. What gesture? Your father and I are trying to keep Courtney from losing everything. With my signature. We're asking you to help. You told Dana I had already agreed. Mom's mouth tightened. I told her the plan. Plans require agreement from the person doing the work. You don't need to speak to me like I'm one of your clients. I wouldn't give a client's financial information to an employee. Her face changed at that. Courtney's balance was never discussed. That doesn't make it appropriate. She picked up the invitations and moved them beneath the counter. Fine. I won't discuss it with Dana again. That isn't the same as correcting what you told her. I'm not going to create gossip. You created it. Mom looked toward the paint counter, where a customer was comparing color cards. Keep your voice down. My voice was already low. I stepped behind the register and removed the remaining invitations from the shopping bags that hadn't been used. There were 12. What are you doing? She asked. These haven't gone out. You can't take store materials. I'm putting them back on the counter. I stacked them beside the register. Mom placed her hand on top of them. Your father paid for these. Then he can print new ones without the announcement. Kelsey. A man near the front door turned toward us. I recognized him as one of our plumbing suppliers. He visited every few months and usually dealt with Dad. Mom smiled immediately. Tom. I didn't hear you come in. He held up an envelope, just dropping off revised pricing. Then he looked at me. I hear you're stepping in for the family again. Mom went still. I asked, what did you hear? He glanced between us. Mark said you had a plan for Courtney's loan. I told him he was lucky to have you. When did he tell you that? Yesterday, I think. Mom said, Tom, can I get you some coffee? No, ma'am. I'm headed back out. I kept my eyes on him. Nothing has been signed. His expression became uncomfortable. I may have misunderstood. You didn't, Mom said quickly. We're still finishing details. Tom nodded, handed her the envelope, and left. The bell over the door rang twice behind him. Mom waited until he was outside. That was unnecessary. I answered his question. He didn't ask one. Dad told him I had a plan. He was trying to reassure a supplier. About Courtney's loan? Courtney bought inventory through people we know. Your father doesn't want rumors that the family refuses to stand behind her. That was the complication. The boutique's failure wasn't only embarrassing to them. Dad believed his reputation at Knight Hardware was tied to how Courtney's debt was resolved. He had made my agreement part of his reassurance to suppliers. How many people has he told? I asked. I don't know. Ask him. You can ask him Sunday. I'm asking you now. And I said, I don't know. A customer approached with a box of faucet washers, and Mom turned to the register. The conversation was over because she had decided it was. I went into the back office. The luncheon folder was on the desk. I didn't open it. On top was an updated guest list with check marks beside several names. Tom's name was there, along with 4 other supplier representatives and most of the employees. My aunt and uncle were listed. So were 2 grown cousins and 3 longtime family friends. Elaine's name appeared near the bottom. Beside it, Mom had written, "Needs office at 1:15. The lunch started at noon. They intended to make the announcement before taking Elaine into the office. That way, by the time I saw the papers, everyone outside would already believe I had agreed. I took a photograph of the guest list and left it exactly where it was. At home, I added the photograph to my folder. Then I emailed Mom, Dad, and Courtney together. Do not tell anyone else that I have agreed to assume, pay, or take responsibility for the boutique debt. I have not agreed. If someone asks, tell them the matter is still under review. Dad replied first. We'll discuss Sunday. I answered. This is not a request to discuss. It is a correction. Courtney wrote, Can you please stop making everything sound like a business dispute? I didn't respond. Mom didn't answer at all. Sunday dinner was at 6. I arrived at 5:58 and parked on the street instead of behind Courtney. I wanted to be able to leave without asking her to move her car. Dad was carving a roast in the kitchen. Mom set a dish of green beans on the table. Courtney sat with a glass of wine, scrolling through her phone. Nobody mentioned my email until we had filled our plates. Then Dad put down his fork. You embarrassed your mother at the store. I corrected something you told a supplier. Tom had no business repeating a private conversation. You discussed me with him. I said we had a family plan. You said I had a plan for Courtney's loan. Dad looked at Mom. She said, That's how Tom interpreted it. That's what he told me. Courtney sighed. Can we please eat one meal without this? I looked at her. How many people have you told? Told what? That I'm taking over the debt. I haven't made some announcement. Who knows? She pushed a piece of carrot around her plate. My landlord knows there's a workout plan. Does he know my name? I don't think so. That means maybe. It means I don't remember every word of every conversation. Dad said, Enough. No, I said. I need an answer from each of you. Who has been told I agreed? Mom folded her napkin. We spoke to your aunt. And? A few friends. How many? I don't keep a list of my conversations. You kept a guest list. Dad's eyes narrowed. What guest list? The one in the office. You went through our papers? It was on the desk where I've worked for 12 years. That doesn't mean you photographed things. Mom looked sharply at me. You took a photograph. I wanted a record of who had been invited. Why? Courtney asked. Because suppliers, employees, and relatives are being brought into a loan meeting that was supposed to involve 4 people and a credit union officer. Dad leaned back. The loan meeting will be private. The announcement won't be. He didn't deny that. I took a folded sheet of paper from my purse. It listed the 2 payment options from the workout packet, without the guarantee page or assumption form. Mom said you wanted to show me what all of you can contribute. Dad glanced at it. We can help with the first few payments. How many? We haven't settled on that. Give me a range. 3, maybe 4. At what amount? He named the payment under the longer plan. I wrote it down. And after 4 months, Courtney should be working by then. Courtney looked up. I am working. I mean regular income, Dad said. Her face hardened. Mom touched her arm. He means while you decide what's next. I asked Courtney. How much can you contribute now? I'm trying to close the store responsibly. How much? Nothing right now. After the inventory sale? That depends on what sells. The loan is secured by the inventory and equipment. That money goes toward the balance. Dad looked at me more carefully. You read more than the payment options. I read the packet. I kept my hands beneath the table so I wouldn't touch the folder in my purse. Mom said, nobody expected you to ignore the rest. That's almost exactly what your email said. I asked you to focus, because the rest shows this isn't a payment plan. It's a transfer. Courtney pushed her chair back slightly. Why does every word matter so much to you? Because after the transfer, it's my debt. We'd still help, Mom said. For 4 months. We said at least 3, Dad corrected. I looked at him. He seemed to realize too late how that sounded. I folded the payment sheet and returned it to my purse. My answer is still no. Dad's face reddened. You agreed to review the file. I reviewed it. You agreed to come tonight. I came. You knew what this dinner was for. Yes. I wanted to know whether there was a real repayment plan. There is. The plan is that I pay until Courtney succeeds at something else. Courtney stood. I'm not sitting here while you talk about me like I'm useless. I didn't say you were useless. You don't have to. She carried her plate to the kitchen. Mom looked at me. Go talk to her. No. It was a small word, but nobody moved after I said it. Mom blinked. She's upset. She can be upset. You know how she gets when she feels cornered. I didn't follow her into the kitchen. Dad said, Kelsey, just smooth this over. No. That was the first assignment I refused while all three of them were waiting for me to accept it. Courtney stayed in the kitchen. Mom eventually went after her. Dad picked up his fork but didn't eat. You've changed, he said. I asked for numbers. You used to care how people felt, I still do, then act like it. I stood and picked up my purse. Correct what you told Tom. Correct the employees, too. You don't give orders in my store, then consider it notice about my name. He stared at me. I left without saying goodbye. By the time I reached home, 3 relatives had texted. My aunt wrote, Your mother says you're refusing to help after getting everyone's hopes up. One cousin asked whether the lunch was still happening. The third message came from Dana. Mark just told us there's been a misunderstanding, but he says the family announcement is still on. What should I do with the invitations? I looked at the photograph of the stack beside the register. Then I replied, Keep one for me. Put the rest wherever Mom tells you. If they were determined to fill that room, I wasn't going to help them empty it. Dana did. She slid one invitation across the counter when I stopped by the store the next morning. Mom had removed the stack, but not before several more went into customer bags. The sentence about the family announcement was still there. I folded my copy and put it in my purse. Has Dad corrected what he told everyone? I asked. He said there was confusion about the details. What details? He didn't say. Did he tell you I haven't agreed? Dana looked uncomfortable. Not exactly. That answer followed me into the office. I had come to retrieve a tax notice that still went to the store. The envelope was on Dad's desk beneath a pile of supplier catalogs. Beside it was a yellow legal pad with my name written at the top. Under my name, Dad had listed 6 things: payroll, weekly deposit review, luncheon setup, Elaine meeting, new payment, Courtney plan. I took a photograph. Dad walked in while I was putting my phone away. What are you doing? Collecting my mail. He glanced at the legal pad, then turned it face down. Your mother said you left dinner early. I left after you asked me to fix Courtney's feelings. That isn't what I asked. You said to smooth it over. Same thing you do for anyone you cared about. No. It's what you ask me to do, so you don't have to. Dad picked up the tax envelope and handed it to me. You've got an answer for everything lately. I have questions. Nobody likes them. He leaned against the desk. Are you coming Thursday? Yes. For the full luncheon? Yes. Some tension left his face. Good. Your mother needs help with setup. I'm attending. I'm not running it. His expression closed again. You've run every customer lunch we've had. Mom planned this one. She planned the food. You know where tables go, how to keep the aisles clear, where to put the trash bins. So do you. I'll be dealing with customers. So will Mom. And Courtney has enough on her plate. I looked at the yellow pad. Then hired 2 people from the catering company to set up. That's a waste of money, but my time is free. You're part of this store. I don't own it. You've never cared about that before. That was true. I had accepted responsibility without ownership for years. I had treated being trusted with keys as if it were the same as having a real place. Dad picked up the legal pad. We don't need to settle every old complaint because your sister needs help. This isn't an old complaint. It sounds like one. I took my tax notice. I'll be here at noon Thursday. The tables arrive at 10. Then you should be here at 10. I walked out before he could turn the delivery into another emergency. At home, I opened the tax notice. It was only a confirmation that one of my quarterly payments had been applied. I scanned it, saved it, and updated my mailing address again. Then my business credit card sent an alert. A charge for $1,248 had posted from the payroll and inventory software Knight Hardware used. The annual renewal had gone through. I stared at the alert. Years earlier, the store card had expired 2 days before payroll. Dad was out of town, Mom couldn't find the replacement, and the software company required immediate payment to keep processing active. I used my business card and told myself I would change it later. Dad reimbursed the first year. The second year, I forgot to ask until the next month. He gave me half and said the rest would come after a slow season. I couldn't remember what happened the third year. I searched my statements. The store had reimbursed some software charges, printer supplies, and 2 emergency delivery fees. Others had remained on my books as business expenses, even though they belonged to Knight Hardware. I added them. Over the previous 3 years, I had paid a little more than $6,000 in store costs that had never come back to me. That didn't include lunches I picked up, mileage, or the unpaid hours. I called Dad. He answered with, "What now?" The software renewal hit my card. How much? $1,248. Already? It renews this month every year. Can you cover it until next week? It has already been charged. Can reimbursement wait? No. He sighed. We have a lot moving right now. So do I. The store account is tight until the end of the week. Then transfer it Friday. We'll see where we are Friday. No. Transfer it Friday. His voice became sharp. You don't get to demand money on your schedule. It's my credit card. You're the one who put it on there. To keep your payroll running. And I appreciated it. Appreciation doesn't pay the statement. Don't start talking to me like a collection agency. I closed my eyes. Dad, the store owes me for a store expense. I heard you. There are older charges, too. What older charges? I'm reviewing them. You've never mentioned them before. I am now. This is because of Courtney. No. Courtney is why I finally looked. He went silent. Then he said, "Send me the current receipt." I will. I can't promise Friday. Then I'll remove my card before the next charge. You can't disrupt store systems because you're angry. I'm not disrupting anything. I'm changing the billing method. To what? The store's card. Talk to me before you touch it. It should have been on the store card all along. He ended the call. I emailed the receipt to the store account. I copied Mom and asked for reimbursement by Friday. Mom replied privately, "Your father feels attacked from every direction. Please let this wait until after the luncheon." I sent back. The credit card due date won't wait. Then my phone rang. It was a contractor whose books I had handled for almost 4 years. He sounded embarrassed. "I need to ask you something personal." "All right. Are you taking over Hearth and Harbor?" "No." There was a pause. "I heard you might be." "From whom?" "Somebody at the hardware store. I don't want to drag names into it." "What exactly did they say?" "That you were assuming Courtney's financial obligations and helping run things while she figured out the next step." I stood up from my desk. "I haven't agreed to take over any debt or business. I didn't think it sounded like you." "Why did you ask?" "Because we've been discussing expanding your work for us. If you're going to be tied up with another business, I need to know." We had planned to meet the following week about adding payroll services for his company. The work would have increased my monthly income by a meaningful amount. "I'm not taking over the boutique," I said. "I believe you. I just need things stable. My practice is stable." "I know. Let's hold off on adding payroll until everything settles down." "How long?" "Maybe a month. We can revisit it." He was polite. He wasn't threatening to leave. Still, the decision cost me work because my family had announced my availability as if it were theirs to distribute. "I understand," I said. After we hung up, I removed the projected payroll revenue from my budget. Then I called Mom. "Someone at the store told one of my clients I'm taking over Courtney's business." "I didn't. I didn't say you did. I'm telling you, it happened. People talk. Because you gave them something to talk about. You corrected Tom in the middle of the store. That probably created more questions." My client postponed work because he thinks I'm about to be occupied with Courtney's finances. That seems dramatic. It cost me income. So now you're blaming us for a decision your client made? You told employees I was taking over the financial side. I told Dana, one person. Dad told suppliers. He was trying to protect the store. And Courtney told her landlord there was a workout plan. Mom's voice rose. What do you want from us? I want you to stop using my name. We have stopped. Then send a message to the employees saying I have not agreed to take over the boutique or the debt. I'm not putting family finances in writing for employees. You already put a special announcement in customer bags. That doesn't mention money. Then what are you planning to announce? She didn't answer. I heard Dad say something in the background. Mom covered the phone. Their voices became muffled. When she came back, her tone was flat. Your father says the software reimbursement will have to wait. I looked at the credit card alert on my monitor. Fine. Thank you. I didn't say I'd leave my card attached. Kelsey, don't make changes right before payroll. Payroll has already processed for this week. You know what I mean? Yes, I do. I ended the call. That was the strong turn for me. They had used my labor, my money, my name, and my professional reputation, then called each piece family help. Refusing the loan would protect my signature. It wouldn't protect the rest of my life. If you've ever reached that same limit, leave the word enough in the comments. I opened the store software account and checked every permission. I didn't shut anything down. I changed the billing method to the valid Knight hardware card already listed as a backup. The next renewal would go where it belonged. Then I created a separate cloud workspace for my bookkeeping practice. For years, I had kept store files and client files under the same administrative login because it was convenient. That meant every time Dad needed a password reset or Mom couldn't find an invoice, I was pulled back into the same screen where I earned my living. I moved my client folders first. Nothing was deleted. Nothing belonging to Knight Hardware left the store account. I copied my business templates, archived my own records, and changed my client portal to the new address. The process took most of the afternoon. At 5, Dad emailed about the software. What did you change? The renewal receipt had listed the new payment method for future charges. He had noticed faster than I expected. I replied, future store charges will go to the store card. No services were interrupted. He wrote back, you should have waited. I didn't answer. I printed the 2-page transition list I had made. Then I began a folder for each task Knight Hardware would need to handle without me. Payroll instructions went first. Supplier payment dates went second. Inventory procedures, employee scheduling, tax reminders, bank deposits, and alarm contacts followed. I wasn't preparing to punish them. I was making sure they couldn't claim I had abandoned the store in confusion. The work took another 3 hours. When I finished, I placed the transition folders in a cardboard file box beneath my desk. The store keys were still in my purse. The brass ring felt heavier when I picked it up. A text arrived from Courtney. Mom says you're quitting the store over me, I replied. I haven't discussed my store role with her. She called. So you are quitting? I didn't say that. You moved the software billing. To the store card. Dad says you're pulling accounts apart. I separated my client files from store files. Why now? Because they should never have been combined. You're doing all this right before the luncheon to scare everyone. No, I'm doing it so my work stays mine. Courtney was silent. Then she said, if you leave the store, Dad will blame me. That's between you and Dad. It doesn't feel like it. No, it probably feels like something I should fix. She didn't answer. I looked at the file box beneath my desk. I'm still coming Thursday, I said. Are you going to embarrass us? I'm going to answer for myself. That sounds like yes. She hung up. A minute later, the family group message lit up. Dad wrote, we need everyone at the store tomorrow night. There will be no more private decisions that affect Knight Hardware. I read the message twice. They had noticed one billing change and one unavailable shift. They still didn't know about the transition folders, the separate workspace, or the copies in my filing cabinet. I turned off notifications and added one more page to the box. How to assign responsibility when no one can send it to Kelsey. The next morning, I tested the new client portal before I did anything for the store. I signed in from my phone, uploaded a sample invoice, downloaded it, and checked the automatic email. Then I sent each client a short message explaining that their files had moved to a new secure address. No services or deadlines would change. Most replied with some version of, "Got it." The roofing contractor called around 10. "I saw the new portal," he said. That was quick. I'd already been planning to separate my practice systems. Was the hardware store able to see our files before? Not the financial records. The administrative login was shared across 2 workspaces. I should have separated them sooner. He was quiet for a moment. "So your business isn't connected to Courtney's?" "No." "And you're not taking over her store?" "No." "All right, let's keep the payroll meeting on the calendar. We don't have to start immediately, but I don't want to lose the time." That didn't restore the income I had removed from my budget. It restored the opportunity. "Thank you," I said. "I just needed to know you had your own house in order." "I do." After we hung up, I printed the meeting confirmation and placed it with my business records, not the family folder. The new system had worked once. A client had asked a fair question, and I had answered with something concrete. My files were separate. My schedule was still mine. Nothing about Courtney's loan could change that unless I let it. At noon, an automated message arrived from the old workspace. A standard user had attempted to access a migrated folder. The username belonged to Dad. He called less than a minute later. "Where are the contractor accounts?" "In my business workspace. They're gone." They were copied to my account, then removed from the store workspace. "You said you weren't deleting anything. I didn't delete store records." "Those customers came through Night Hardware." "Some did." "They're clients of my bookkeeping practice." "I need to see what you moved." "No." He sounded genuinely surprised. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, those files contain private client information. You don't have a reason to access them. I wasn't trying to read their books. You tried to open the folder. I wanted to see if it was still there. It isn't. You made that change without talking to me. I don't need permission to protect my client files." Dad lowered his voice. "This is exactly why we're meeting tonight. I'll be there. And bring every store password. The store passwords are in the store password manager. I want them printed. That isn't secure. Print them." "No." He ended the call. I didn't feel guilty. That was new. At 6, I walked into Night Hardware carrying one slim folder. I left the loan copies at home. I also left the transition box under my desk. Dad had arranged 4 chairs in the back office. Mom and Courtney were already seated. The yellow legal pad from the day before was in front of him. He closed the office door. "What did you bring?" he asked. "The software receipt, my reimbursement request, and a list of the store systems. Passwords? No." He held out his hand. I gave him the system list. Each line named the service, the store email attached to it, the billing method, and which store user had access. I had not included my clients, my business email, or my private accounts. Dad read the first page. "What's this supposed to prove?" "That the store has access to its systems." I couldn't see the contractor folders. Those aren't store files. They were in our account. They were in a workspace I administered. That wasn't appropriate, so I corrected it. Mom said, "Nobody was looking at your clients." Dad tried today. "I told you why," he said. Courtney leaned forward. "Are any of my boutique records in there? The records you sent me for specific work are archived in my client system. I never hired you." "No, you asked for help and sent me financial records. Then delete them. I'm required to retain records connected to work I performed." Courtney looked at Dad. "See? She turns everything into a rule." I kept my eyes on her. "If you want copies of what you sent me, I'll provide them. I have my own copies." "Then there's no problem." Mom rubbed her forehead. "Can we please stop talking about computer folders?" Dad put the system list on the desk. "We're talking about whether Kelsey still considers herself part of this business. I was never an owner. You know, that's not what I mean." "What do you mean? You have responsibilities here." Which ones? He turned the yellow pad over. You know which ones. I want you to say them. Dad read from the list. Payroll review, deposits, scheduling, supplier accounts, inventory, sales tax, customer events. Who assigned those to me? Nobody had to assign them. You took them on. Was I supposed to do them forever? He pushed the pad away. Why are you acting like we forced you? That question hurt because the honest answer wasn't simple. They had asked. I had said yes. Then they asked again. After enough years, asking became expecting, and my yes became something no one waited to hear. I let temporary help become my permanent job, I said. That part is mine. Mom's expression softened as if she thought I was apologizing. I wasn't. I placed the software receipt in front of Dad. The store needs to reimburse this by Friday. We've already discussed that. No, you said you couldn't promise. Then why are we discussing it again? Because the charge belongs to the store. Courtney made a frustrated sound. Can I just pay it? The three of us looked at her. She lifted both hands. I have some money in my personal account. Dad said, You need that for rent. I'm living with you after the lease closes. Mom turned to her. We haven't discussed that. I can't keep my apartment with no income. Dad looked toward me, almost automatically. I didn't fill the silence. Finally, Mom said, We'll make space. Courtney's eyes moved back to me. You have a guest room? No, I didn't ask. You looked at me. I was just thinking. You can think about Mom and Dad's house. Mom said my name in a warning tone. I ignored it. Dad tapped the receipt. The store will reimburse the current charge Friday. That's the end of this discussion. Thank you. It was a practical result. He had given a date in front of witnesses. I wrote it on my copy. His eyes followed my pen. Do you document everything now? Anything involving my money? Families shouldn't need receipts for every little thing. This isn't little. It is compared to what Courtney is facing. Courtney looked down. That comparison had been controlling every conversation. Any demand placed on me became small beside her failure. Any boundary I set became cruel because she was worse off. Dad continued. Now, about Thursday. You'll be here at 10. No, I'll be here at noon. The table company needs someone who knows the layout. You know the layout. I have to pick up the door prizes. Mom can meet the table company. Mom sat upright. I'm dealing with the caterer. Then move the door prize pickup to Courtney. Courtney stared at me. I have to meet the liquidator. What time? 10:30. Then Dad can meet the table company at 10 and pick up door prizes after. Dad said, That puts everything behind. Call the table company and ask for 9. They charge extra before 10, then pay extra or be here. He looked at the other two, waiting for one of them to move the problem back to me. Nobody spoke. I took out my phone and called the table company. Dad watched me. When the coordinator answered, I put her on speaker. This is Kelsey from Knight Hardware. I'm confirming Thursday's delivery. Do you have an earlier window available? The woman checked. We can arrive between 9 and 9:30. Same price. Dad's face changed. Please update the delivery contact to Mark Knight, I said. I'll give you his number. I read it to her. She repeated it. All set, she said. Thank you. I ended the call. The problem was solved. I had not taken the assignment. Dad would meet the tables, and it would cost nothing extra. Mom said, You could have done that without making a point. I did it because Dad said there wasn't another option. Dad's phone buzzed with the delivery confirmation. He looked at the screen, then at me. So now you're handing off jobs one by one. I'm making sure the correct person owns each task. This is my store. Yes. The word landed differently than he expected. Dad stood and opened the office door. We're done. Mom rose more slowly. Courtney stayed seated. As I stepped into the hallway, she called after me. What about the loan meeting? What about it? Are you still coming? Yes. Have you made a decision? I told you my answer Sunday. You said no before we gave you a real plan. The payment schedule wasn't a plan. We can make one. With what income? I'm selling the inventory. That money belongs in the workout. I know. Then what changes my answer? She looked toward Dad, but he was walking to the front counter. Nothing, apparently. I left without correcting her. On the drive home, Mom called twice. I let both calls go to voicemail. Her message was short. Your father is furious. He says if you want to separate everything, he'll stop sending store customers to your bookkeeping practice. Call me before he does something permanent. I saved the voicemail. Then I checked my client list. Only one current client had originally come through a direct referral from Dad. The rest came from my own work and later referrals. For years, I had believed Knight Hardware gave my practice legitimacy. Dad believed it too. Now that belief gave him something to threaten. At 8, a store-wide email arrived from his account. Effective immediately, all questions involving store operations should come directly to me. Kelsey is reviewing how much involvement she wants going forward. It was the first accurate thing he had told the employees all week. I forwarded it to my personal records and closed my laptop. A few minutes later, Dana texted, "Does this mean I shouldn't ask you about payroll tomorrow?" I replied, "Ask Mark. He has the instructions and access." She sent back, "Okay." Then another message appeared. He's standing here saying he can't find them. I looked at the phone and didn't call him. For once, the target Dad had chosen was visible to everyone. He had announced that store questions belonged to him. By morning, he would have to answer one. At 8:12 the next morning, Dana called. Mark changed the password. Which password? The payroll one. The saved login doesn't work. Is he there? He went to the bank. Did he leave a new password? He wrote something on a sticky note, but it says the account is locked. I opened my laptop and tried the store login. My access had been removed. An automated notice had been sent at 7:46, but it went into my junk folder. The message said the account owner had revoked my administrative permissions. Dad removed me, I said. What do I do? The payroll entries should already be complete. He only needs to review and submit them. He told me you review them. He told everyone store questions go to him. Dana didn't answer. What time does he get back? I asked. He said 9. The submission deadline is noon. When he returns, have him call support and unlock the account. What if he can't? Support can walk him through it. Kelsey, people are going to worry if payroll is late. I know. I also knew exactly how to fix it. If Dad restored my access, I could submit payroll in less than 10 minutes. That was the old trap. He could remove me to prove authority, then wait for me to protect him from the result. Give him the support number in the blue payroll folder, I said. I don't see a blue folder. Bottom drawer of the office filing cabinet. I'll find it. Text me when he gets back. She did. He's here. He says not to involve you. I replied, then don't. He has until noon. At 11:30, I received a call from the software company. Dad had listed my number as the secondary support contact years earlier. The representative asked if I could authorize an account reset. I'm no longer an administrator, I said. The account owner removed me this morning. Can you verify the company's security code? I can, but you need authorization from the current administrator. We've spoken to Mr. Knight. He can't locate the code. It's in the blue payroll folder. He says he doesn't have that folder. I looked at the transition box beneath my desk. The full instructions were in my copy. The store folder had been in the filing cabinet for more than a year. If Dad couldn't find it, either Dana had missed it or he was refusing to use something I had prepared. I can't authorize access after being removed, I said. The representative thanked me and ended the call. At 12:20, Dana texted. He got in. Payroll submitted. Dad had solved it. Late, but before the software's final processing cutoff. I set down my phone and went back to work. At 1, another automated email arrived. Dad had removed my access from the inventory system and the store bank feed. Then he changed the recovery email on the supplier portal. The messages kept coming for almost an hour. He was cutting every operational connection before I could decide when to leave. At 2:15, I received an email from the store account. Kelsey, since you have chosen to separate your business from Knight Hardware, your access to store systems has been removed. Do not make further changes or represent yourself as authorized to act for the store. We will discuss your future role after the luncheon. Mark, Mom, and Courtney were copied. I read the last sentence again. My future role. Dad had removed my access, but he still assumed my role would be his to discuss. I replied only to confirm that I would make no further changes. Then I saved the email in my records. My business phone rang before 3. The caller was the one client Dad had directly referred to me. He owned a small flooring company and had been with me for 5 years. I got a strange call from your father, he said. What did he say? That you and the hardware store are parting ways. My bookkeeping practice is independent from Night Hardware. That's what I thought. It always has been. He made it sound like there might be problems with records. There are no problems with your records. I know you've done good work for us. The past tense told me where the conversation was going. He cleared his throat. Mark says Courtney might start handling office work at the store, and they're bringing in someone to review everything. He suggested we keep all the local accounts together. Courtney has never handled your books. I understand. Did Dad tell you I made an error? No, nothing like that. Then why are you leaving? Another pause. I buy most of my materials through him. I don't want to get caught in a family disagreement. There it was. He wasn't choosing a better bookkeeper. He was choosing the business relationship that affected his supplies. When do you want the transition? I asked. The end of the month, if that works? It does. I'm sorry, Kelsey. I'll prepare a complete export and final statement. You've always been good to us. Thank you. After we hung up, I calculated the loss. $625 a month. It wasn't enough to ruin my practice. It was enough to change my budget and delay a software upgrade I had planned. More than that, Dad had used the store relationship exactly as Mom warned he might. He couldn't reclaim the other clients. He could make the one who depended on him uncomfortable enough to leave. I printed the client's termination email when it arrived. Then I put it in my business records. I did not put it in the loan folder. Losing a client didn't change who had signed Courtney's guarantee. It didn't make my signature less voluntary. It only showed what my father would do when I stopped being useful in the approved way. At 4, someone knocked on my front door. Mom stood outside holding the software reimbursement check. I let her in. She followed me to the kitchen and placed the check on the counter. Your father said I should mail it. You could have. I wanted to see you. The check covered the recent renewal exactly. None of the older expenses were included. I picked it up and checked the date. Thank you. Mom looked toward the hallway leading to my office. Are you really moving all your clients? They're already moved. Where? To my own system. Your father says you've been preparing this for weeks. I started after you gave the credit union my name. So this is punishment? No. It feels like punishment. It feels different because I'm not absorbing everything. Mom pulled out a chair. Sit down. I'm fine standing. Please. I sat across from her. She folded her hands on the table. Your father had to call payroll support 3 times. He removed my access. He was afraid you would shut something off. I changed one billing method to the store card. You also took files. I took my client files. He doesn't see the difference. I do. Mom looked tired. There was no makeup around her eyes, and she had missed a button on one sleeve. Courtney is closing the boutique Friday. I'm sorry. The liquidator offered less than she expected. The credit union has an interest in the inventory. She needs to coordinate the sale with Elaine. She knows. Good. Mom pressed her lips together. We may have to use most of our savings if the workout fails. I didn't respond. Did you hear me? Yes. Your father is 63. I'm 61. We don't have forever to rebuild. I know. You do. That was the same argument she had made on the phone. My years were being counted as family property, too. Dad signed the business paperwork, I said carefully. I didn't say guarantee. He was helping his daughter. And now you want me to help yours. She's your sister. He's my father. Mom looked away. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she said, Your grandmother would hate this. That hurt more than I expected. My grandmother had died before Courtney opened the boutique. She had spent most Saturday mornings at Night Hardware, sitting on a stool near the register and keeping a notebook of special orders. She was the one person in the family who thanked me for specific things, not for being good, not for being dependable, for driving her to an appointment, for finding an invoice, for staying late. She would hate being used in this conversation, I said. Mom flinched. I'm trying to remind you that family mattered to her. It matters to me. Then why are you letting your father face this alone? He wasn't alone when he signed. Mom stared at me. I kept my face still. What exactly did you read? She asked. The complete packet you sent. I know that. What are you trying to imply? Nothing. She studied me long enough that I wondered whether I had said too much. Then she pushed back from the table. The luncheon could still go well. What does well mean? You sign the longer plan. Your father and I cover the first 4 payments. Courtney starts working at the store and contributes once the boutique lease is closed. That leaves me responsible if any of you stop. We won't. Courtney already did. Mom stood. If you refuse in front of everyone, your father will never forget it. Why does everyone need to be there? It's too late to change the lunch. You could cancel the announcement. People are expecting it because you created that expectation. She picked up her purse. I came here because I wanted to give you one chance to handle this privately. How? Sign before Thursday. Elaine can bring the completed paperwork to the luncheon, and we can keep the financial details in the office. You want me to sign before the public event so nobody sees me decide. I want to spare your father humiliation. He scheduled a signing at a customer lunch. He believed you would help. I walked her to the door. Mom stopped with one hand on the frame. If you do this to him, things won't go back to normal. I looked at her. That's the first thing we agree on. She left without hugging me. That evening, Courtney sent photographs from inside the boutique. Price stickers covered the lamps and tables. Empty sections had appeared along the walls. A handwritten sign at the register said, "Final sale." Her message read, "This is what you're letting happen." I typed, "The store was already closing before I saw the loan file." I didn't send it. I set the phone face down and opened the plain folder. The guarantee page was still there. So was the blank assumption form. Dad had removed my store access. I had lost a client. Mom had placed our relationship on the other side of my signature. Courtney was sending me photographs of consequences she wanted me to own. I could still avoid the public refusal. I could call Elaine, decline the meeting, and let my parents explain my absence. That would protect me from the debt, but it would leave them free to tell everyone I had abandoned a promise at the last minute, or I could sign and keep my place. I understood the price now. Withholding my consent meant I might lose the version of my family that welcomed me as long as I carried what they handed me. I placed the folder in my work bag and set the brass key ring beside it. Then I accepted Elaine's meeting invitation. Elaine replied the next morning, "Thank you. I've marked you as attending. Please arrive by 1:15 for the private meeting." I called her. "I want to confirm something before Thursday." "All right. Will you have the credit union's original loan file? I'll have the relevant documents. Does that include the signed guarantee?" "Yes." "And the proposed assumption form?" "Yes. Is any part of that form already effective?" "No, even though my name is typed into it. A typed name in a draft doesn't create an agreement." What if the borrower and guarantor both say I agreed verbally? It still wouldn't execute the assumption form. What if they say we made a family agreement? That isn't something the credit union enforces. She was quiet for a moment. "Ms. Knight, are you concerned that someone will try to sign for you?" "No. I'm concerned they'll try to make the meeting feel like a formality. I won't accept a signature that isn't made voluntarily. I understand. I'm not asking you to protect me from the conversation. What are you asking? If I decline, will you say clearly what that means for the proposed transfer?" "Yes. The existing loan documents remain in effect, and the guarantee remains where it is, unless the credit union agrees to release it for some other reason. Yes. Has the credit union agreed to release it without my assumption? No. That removed the last uncertainty. Dad's responsibility wasn't ending because Courtney had defaulted. It would end only if the credit union accepted another resolution. The resolution my parents had chosen required me. Elaine continued, "You should understand that declining doesn't resolve the default. I understand. The borrower and guarantor will still need to present a workable cure. I understand that too. I can move this meeting to the branch." "No? You're sure?" "Yes. Keep the location." "All right." I thanked her and ended the call. I wrote down her answers while they were fresh. Then I placed the note behind the guarantee page. The leverage was almost embarrassingly simple. My signature line was blank. I could keep it that way. No transfer, no replacement, no release based on a conversation at my parents' dining table. The credit union wasn't going to punish them for me. Elaine wasn't coming to expose anyone. If I declined, she would return to the people already responsible and ask what they planned to do next. That was enough. At 10, Dana texted a photograph of the store. The folding tables had arrived a day early by mistake. Dad was standing beside a stack of them near the paint counter. She wrote, "Mark says he can't leave them here. Delivery guy says the order says today." I checked the delivery confirmation from the meeting. It clearly said Thursday. I replied, "Show the driver the confirmation. Ask him to reload and return tomorrow." Dana sent back, "Mark says to ask if you can call." I typed, "The confirmation is enough." 3 minutes later, she wrote, "Driver checked his dispatch. Wrong date. He's taking them back." Dad had handled the problem without me, even if his first instinct had been to send it my way. It was a small thing, but I saved the message. Then Dana asked, "Can I ask what's really happening tomorrow?" I called her instead of answering by text. "What has Dad told everyone?" "That you're stepping away from the store because Courtney asked for help. Those are 2 separate decisions." That's what I thought. What else? "He said you're making him handle everything alone to prove a point." "Has payroll been processed?" "Yes." "Did the table delivery get corrected?" "Yes." "Then he isn't alone." Dana lowered her voice. "People think you promised to pay Courtney's loan and changed your mind. I never promised. Can I tell them that? You can say I told you no agreement was signed. Why don't you send that to everyone? Because Courtney's loan documents aren't employee business. Your parents made it employee business." "I know." "Then why are you protecting them?" I looked at the folder on my desk. "I'm protecting the line between correcting a lie and distributing private financial records." Dana was quiet. "You have records? I have what I need. Do you want me to keep the employees near the office tomorrow?" "No." "Do you want everyone in the front when Brenda makes the announcement?" "I'm not arranging an audience. She already did." "I know. Just work your normal shift." After we hung up, I opened a blank email. I attached the guarantee page and the assumption form. I addressed it to Mom, Dad, Courtney, my aunt, the 2 cousins who had texted, and the employees whose addresses were in the store directory. 1 click would have ended the confusion before lunch. They would all see Dad's signature. They would see my blank line. My parents would lose control of the story before they had time to finish breakfast. I left the email open for several minutes. Then I deleted it. Dad's guarantee was relevant because he was trying to replace it with my obligation. It wasn't an invitation for me to send his financial documents around Georgetown. If he spoke publicly, I would answer publicly. I would use the pages in the room he had filled. I wouldn't widen the room myself. Courtney called that afternoon. "Are you still coming tomorrow?" "Yes. Mom says you accepted the meeting." "I did." "Does that mean you're reconsidering?" "No," she breathed out. "Then why come?" "Because my name is on the proposed paperwork and the announcement. You could stay home." "So everyone can be told I backed out?" "Nobody would say that." 3 relatives already have. That was Mom. She was upset. And Dad spoke to suppliers. He was scared. Being scared doesn't make his statements true. Courtney's voice sharpened. "You have to be right about everything. I need people to stop saying I agreed. What do you want me to say? That I failed and my sister won't help? Say the business failed and the loan needs a different cure. Easy for you. No, clear. I don't have another cure." then sell what the credit union has a claim on, close the lease, and get a job. She went silent. It was the first time I had said it that plainly. "You think I should work at the hardware store?" she said. "I think you need regular income. Dad offered me shifts." "Then take them. You'd love that, wouldn't you? Watching me ring up screws while you walk in with your clients and your organized little folders. I don't want to watch you do anything. That's worse." I waited for her to continue. When she did, her voice was lower. "If you refuse tomorrow, Dad says he'll have to use savings." "I know. Mom won't forgive you. That's her decision. And me? That's yours. You really don't care. I care. I'm still not signing." Courtney started crying. This time, I didn't confuse her tears with a new fact. She said, "I always thought if something really bad happened, you'd be there. I have been there. I rebuilt your sales records. I fixed vendor bills. I spent weekends on your reports. That's bookkeeping. It was my time. You know what I mean? Yes. You mean you thought I would take the consequence." She ended the call. I sat in my office until the light changed across the desk. Courtney's final words stayed with me because they were honest in a way she hadn't intended. She had believed I would be there. So had Mom. So had Dad. My place in the family had felt secure because they always called me. I had mistaken frequency for care and dependence for respect. I took the transition box from beneath my desk and checked each folder again. The store could operate without me. The instructions were complete. The accounts belonged to the store. Dad had already removed my access, which meant no one could accuse me of making changes after the luncheon. I wrote a short cover page. These materials contain current procedures for night hardware operations as of this week. All store records remain with the store. No client records are included. I signed and dated it. Then I put the box in the trunk of my car. The brass key ring stayed in my work bag. That evening, Mom left another voicemail. "Your father wants you at the store by 11:30. We saved you a seat with the family. Please wear something nice. Whatever you think right now, don't embarrass him in his own business." I listened once and saved it. Then I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and practiced answering the only question that mattered. Would I sign? The first time, I explained too much. I talked about unpaid hours, lost income, software charges, and the client Dad had cost me. The second time, I sounded angry. The third time, I said no. I did not agree to assume this debt. That was enough. I practiced one other sentence. The signed guarantee names the person who already agreed. I didn't need a speech. The documents could carry the part my family had avoided. Before bed, I checked the luncheon invitation again. The customer lunch began at noon. Mom's guest list placed Elaine's meeting at 1:15. I set an alarm for 10, although I was usually awake by 7. I wanted the morning to belong to my clients. The next day, I worked until 11:30. I answered emails, submitted a sales tax return, and confirmed the roofing contractor's payroll meeting. At 11:45, I parked on Prince Street. Cars already lined both sides of the block. Through the store windows, I could see white tablecloths between the aisles and people standing with paper cups. The barbecue truck was parked near the loading door. Dad's truck was in its usual place. Mom's car was beside it. Courtney's white sport utility vehicle was partly over the line. I took my work bag from the passenger seat. The folder was inside. So were the store keys. Then I walked toward Night Hardware without moving either one. Dana saw me first. She was carrying a tray of teacups toward the front counter. She stopped, then nodded toward the tables. "They saved you a seat. I see it." My place was between Mom and Courtney at the family table. A folded card with my name stood in front of an empty plate. Dad came out of the office. "You're late. It isn't noon yet. We needed help. The catering staff seems to have it." 2 women in black aprons were setting out barbecue and rolls. The tables were in place. Trash bins stood at both ends of the food line. The store had not collapsed because I arrived at the time I said I would. Dad looked at my work bag. "Did you bring the papers?" "I brought what I need." His shoulders lowered slightly. He thought that meant I had brought financial information for the assumption form. "Elaine will be here around 1, he said. "We're moving the meeting up. Did she agree to that?" She's on her way." Mom walked toward us wearing a green dress and pearl earrings. "There you are." She hugged me before I could step back. Her cheek touched mine, but her arms barely closed. "You look nice," she said. "Thank you. Can you check the guest list?" "No." Her smile stayed in place. "It's on the register. I'm not checking guests." She glanced at Dad. "We need to know who hasn't arrived. You invited them. You'll recognize them." A customer passed us carrying a plate, and Mom smiled at him. Then she leaned closer to me. "Not today. I'm attending lunch. That's all. You're making your father nervous. He scheduled a signing. We're trying to have a pleasant afternoon. Then go speak to your guests." Mom held my eyes for a second, then turned away. I sat down. Courtney was already at the table with a glass of tea. She wore the pale blue dress I had seen through the window in that first moment. It still had a store tag looped through the label at the back of her neck. She had tucked the tag inside, but the plastic thread showed above the collar. "You brought the folder," she said. "Yes." "Are you going to make a speech?" "No." "Mom is." "I know." Courtney picked at the edge of her napkin. "The liquidator took the display cabinets this morning." "How much?" "I don't know the final number yet. You signed a sale agreement without a final number? It depends on the inventory count." I stopped myself from asking anything else. Her liquidation was between her and the credit union now. Courtney looked toward Dad. He barely slept. I heard, "You don't have to be cold. I'm sitting here. You know what I mean?" "Yes." I placed my work bag beneath my chair. More people arrived. My aunt hugged Mom and avoided looking directly at me. One cousin gave me a careful smile. Tom, the supplier Dad had spoken to, stood near the plumbing aisle with two other vendor representatives. The employees ate in shifts while keeping the registers open. Dana moved between the counter and the tables. Every few minutes she looked toward me. By 12:30, nearly every seat was taken. Dad stood near the food table and thanked everyone for coming. He talked about how long Knight Hardware had served Georgetown. He thanked the suppliers for working with the store and the employees for keeping customers happy. Then he praised Courtney. "Hearth and Harbor brought something new downtown," he said. "Courtney took a chance, and we're proud of her for that." A few people applauded. Courtney looked down, smiling through tears. Dad did not mention that her store was closing the next day. He talked about business being unpredictable. He said people shouldn't be judged by one difficult season. Then he looked at me. And when one member of a family has a hard season, the others step forward. Mom stood with her sweet tea glass. She tapped a spoon against it until the room quieted. "I want everybody to know what Kelsey is doing for this family," she said. The words sounded exactly as they had in my memory. This time, I knew what came after them. Mom rested one hand on my shoulder. "Mark and I told the credit union that Kelsey would take over the remaining payments on Courtney's business debt. She's always been the dependable one, and she has agreed to help us protect Courtney's future." I didn't move. My aunt smiled at me. Someone near the paint counter said, "That's wonderful," Mom continued. "The balance is large, but we're all going to contribute. Courtney will repay Kelsey when she's back on her feet. This is what family does." She had committed to every part of it. Not only that I would help, that I had agreed, that Courtney would repay me, that the family would contribute. Dad raised his cup toward me, to Kelsey. Several people repeated my name. There was scattered applause. Courtney leaned over and hugged me from the side. Her hair caught against my earring. "Thank you," she whispered. I kept my hands in my lap. When she sat back, she noticed. Her face changed. Dad noticed too. Before he could speak, the front bell rang. Elaine entered, carrying a black document case. She wore a navy suit and low shoes. Dad walked over to greet her. "We just finished the announcement," he said. Elaine glanced toward the tables. "I thought the account meeting was private." "The paperwork can be private. Everyone already knows the family plan." She looked at me. I stood. I'd like the question about my consent handled where the announcement was made. Dad's smile disappeared. "Kelsey, the office is ready. You told everyone I agreed. This isn't the place." It became the place when Mom thanked me. The room had gone quiet again. Elaine set her case on the end of the family table. I can explain the proposed agreement, she said, but I won't discuss the borrower's full financial information in front of guests. You don't need to, I replied. I only want the signing question addressed. Dad lowered his voice. Go into the office. No. Mom touched my arm. People are watching. I know. Elaine opened her case and removed the proposed assumption agreement. She placed it on the table. This document would transfer responsibility under the workout terms if all required parties consent and the credit union approves. Dad pointed to the last page. Kelsey signs there. Courtney signs beneath her. Elaine looked at me. Have you reviewed the form? Yes. Do you understand that, if approved, you would become responsible for the remaining debt under these terms? Yes. Are you prepared to sign voluntarily? No. The word carried through the store. Mom's hand dropped from my arm. Courtney stared at me. Dad gave a short, disbelieving laugh. We already settled this as a family. Elaine looked at him. Mr. Knight, family agreement does not substitute for her consent. She attended the meetings. This is the first meeting I attended, I said. You came to dinner twice. Dinner isn't a loan signing. Dad's face reddened. You reviewed the payment plan. You let us hold this lunch. You sat there while your mother thanked you. I also told all three of you I had not agreed. My aunt looked toward Mom. Mom said, We thought she was emotional. I put it in writing. Dad placed his palm on the assumption form. You can't wait until everyone is here and change your mind. I didn't change it. Elaine moved the form away from his hand. Mr. Knight, she has declined to sign. This loan has to be resolved. Yes. You said there was a workout path. This was one proposed path. It requires Ms. Knight's voluntary acceptance. Dad gestured toward me. She's been managing our finances for years. She knew what this was. I knew after I received the complete packet. Mom's face went pale. I opened my work bag and took out the plain folder. I removed the copy of the signed guarantee and placed it beside the blank assumption form. The 2 pages fit next to each other. Dad's signature was on one. Mine was not on the other. This is what it was, I said. Courtney borrowed the money. Dad signed the guarantee. The transfer only works if I volunteer to replace that arrangement. Tom stepped closer to the table. Mark, you told me she had a plan. Dad didn't answer him. Instead, he looked at Elaine. That guarantee was supposed to be released under the workout. After an approved assumption, she said, and now, the existing loan documents remain in effect. Courtney looked at the guarantee page. What does that mean exactly? Elaine answered her directly. Hearth and Harbor remains the borrower. Mr. Knight remains the sole personal guarantor. The word soul changed the room. Mom gripped the back of her chair. My aunt whispered, Mark. Dad pointed at me. She's part of this family. That should count for something. It doesn't change the signed documents, Elaine said. Can the credit union refuse to let her walk away? No. She is not the borrower or guarantor. We cannot substitute her without her consent. Dana stood behind the front counter, completely still. Courtney looked at me. So you came here knowing you'd do this. I came because everyone here was told I had agreed. You wanted to humiliate us. I asked you privately to stop using my name. Mom said, Kelsey, please, sign it now and we'll discuss everything at home. No. She looked around the store as if searching for someone who could change my answer. Nobody moved. Dad turned back to Elaine. What happens next? Elaine closed the assumption agreement. You and Courtney have 10 business days to present a workable cure. 10 days? 10 business days. What kind of cure? What? Liquidation proceeds? Revised payments? A settlement proposal or another arrangement the credit union approves? We can discuss those options privately. Dad looked at the unsigned form. You brought this here to be signed. I brought it for review and possible execution. Ms. Knight declined. Elaine placed the form back in her case. Dad reached toward it. Leave it. I'll retain the unsigned original in the workout file. That mattered more than I expected. The blank form was leaving with the credit union. Nobody could bring it back to me later and pretend the luncheon had only been interrupted. Elaine handed me my copy of the guarantee page. Then she closed her case. I'll contact the borrower and guarantor tomorrow morning to schedule the next discussion. Courtney's voice was barely audible. Can my parents come? Mr. Knight is already a party to the file. Anyone else attends with appropriate authorization. Mom sat down. Elaine nodded to me, then to Dad. I'll be in touch. She walked out through the front door. The bell rang once above her. No one applauded this time. The barbecue trays were still warm. The registers were still open. Customers and employees stood in the same room where my parents had thanked me for accepting a debt. Now the only agreement on the table carried Dad's signature. My aunt was the first person to speak. Brenda, you told us Kelsey volunteered. Mom stared at the table. We believed she would. That isn't the same thing. Dad picked up the guarantee page. This is nobody else's business. Tom set down his paper cup. You made it our business when you told suppliers there was a plan. I was protecting my store. You used her name to do it. Dad folded the page in half. I reached for it. That's my copy. He looked ready to tear it. Then he dropped it on the table. People began leaving without finishing lunch. They thanked Mom for the food because that was the polite thing to do. Most avoided Dad. My cousins said goodbye to me quietly. My aunt squeezed my arm before she left. I'm sorry, she said. I nodded. I wasn't ready to decide what her apology covered. Dana returned to the register. The other employees found things to do in distant aisles. Courtney stayed at the family table. You could have told us, she said. I did. You didn't say you had that page. You knew Dad signed something. I didn't know it meant he had to pay. That's what a guarantee is. Not everyone speaks finance. You signed the loan. She stood so fast her chair tipped backward. Dad caught it before it hit the floor. Stop, he said. Both of you. I looked at him. There is no both of us. His face tightened. You planned this. I asked you not to announce an agreement. You let us invite everyone. You had already sent invitations. You could have stopped the meeting. I couldn't stop you from speaking. But you knew what would happen. I knew I wasn't signing. Mom began gathering cups from the table. You got what you wanted? No. What else is there? I looked toward the office. A file box in my car. Dad's eyes narrowed. What file box? The store procedures you'll need. Mom stopped moving. I went outside and opened my trunk. When I returned carrying the box, the store was almost empty. I set it on the office desk. Dad followed me. What is this? Payroll, supplier dates, deposits, inventory, tax reminders, scheduling, and account instructions. Store records stay here. My client records don't. You prepared all of this before today. Yes. So you were leaving no matter what. I was leaving the unpaid management role. You don't get to abandon a business after 12 years and call it a role. I don't own the business. You keep saying that like we excluded you. You gave me responsibility without authority or pay. We treated you like family. You treated me like coverage. Mom stood in the doorway. We need you right now. You needed me before. You just didn't call it need. Dad opened the top folder and flipped through the first pages. These instructions don't replace a person. No, they tell the people who own the store where to start. What about payroll questions? Call the software company. Suppliers? The contacts are listed. Employee problems? You decide. You're the owner. He closed the folder. I don't accept this. You don't have to approve my decision. Then give me the keys. I reached into my work bag. Mom said, wait. Dad looked at her. She stared at the brass ring in my hand. We don't even know what she's left unfinished. Nothing is unfinished, I said. How would we know? The current task list is in the first folder. Dad held out his hand, then pulled it back. Keep the keys until we review the box. I'm not opening or managing the store. I heard you. I'll return them when you're ready to accept them. He turned away. Courtney was standing near the paint counter. Her cheeks were streaked with mascara. I hope it was worth it, she said. I lifted my work bag. So do I. I went home. That evening, Mom sent one message. "Your father says not to contact the employees directly." I replied, "I won't." Courtney blocked me before midnight. I knew because her profile photograph disappeared from the family message, then the message itself went silent. Dad didn't call. The next morning, Elaine met with him and Courtney at the credit union. I knew only because Mom texted afterward. "They need the inventory sale numbers by Monday. Since you know Courtney's books, please tell us what reports to bring." I looked at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "Elaine can tell Courtney what the credit union requires." Mom called immediately. "You have the reports. Courtney told me she has her own copies. She can't find the equipment list. It's in her loan packet." "Which page? I'm not managing the cure. This takes you 2 seconds." "No, it takes me back into the same role." Mom hung up. An hour later, she sent, "Found it." That was the first time the family solved something without me after I stopped. The boutique closed on Friday. Courtney sold the remaining lamps, chairs, tables, display cabinets, delivery equipment, and unopened inventory through the liquidator. The sale proceeds went toward the loan. She turned over the storefront keys and moved into Mom and Dad's guest room. She did not speak to me. On Monday, Dad opened Night Hardware alone. Dana told me later that he arrived 20 minutes late and forgot to disarm the alarm before entering. The security company called him. He handled it. Mom took over purchasing. Her first order doubled the amount of paint thinner we normally sold in a month and left out the most popular size of drop cloth. She corrected the next order. I heard these things because Georgetown is small and because Dana still had my personal number. I asked her not to report every mistake. "They're watching to see if I call you," she said. "Then don't call unless it concerns my records or property. It's strange without you." "I know. Mark keeps asking where things are. He'll learn." The 10 business days passed slowly for them and quietly for me. I worked. I delivered the flooring company's final records exactly when promised. The owner thanked me and transferred his account. $625 disappeared from my monthly income. Dad did not apologize for that call. I sent another reimbursement request for the older software expenses. He replied that the store records did not show enough detail to approve all of them. I had statements, but I didn't turn it into another fight. I wrote off what I could document and accepted that some of the money was gone. That was part of the cost, too. A boundary could stop the next charge. It couldn't refund every year I had failed to keep one. Near the end of the credit union's deadline, Mom came to my house again. She didn't knock for long this time. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "We have a settlement figure," she said. "All right, the liquidation-covered part. The credit union will accept the rest from us and close the work out. That sounds like a cure. It's most of our savings." "I'm sorry. Are you?" "Yes. Not sorry enough to help." "No." Mom looked past me into the house. "You could lend us a portion. I'm not lending money. It wouldn't be Courtney's debt. It would be helping your parents preserve retirement. It would be the same rescue with a different label." She pressed her lips together. "Your father knew you'd say that." "Then why are you here? I wanted to hear it myself." She walked back to her car without saying goodbye. Dad accepted the settlement. He used family savings to pay the remaining balance rather than let the credit union pursue him under the guarantee. The payment cleared within the deadline. Elaine sent Courtney and Dad written confirmation that the balance had been resolved. Nobody sent me a copy. They didn't need to. I wasn't part of the loan. The customer luncheon had been on a Thursday. By the following month, Courtney was working 4 regular shifts each week at Night Hardware. Dad put her at the register first, then he taught her how to receive deliveries. Mom showed her the purchasing system after the paint thinner mistake. Courtney hated the early shifts. Dana said she arrived with coffee and kept her coat on until the first customer entered. She complained about standing all day. She also learned. One afternoon, she called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered because I thought it was a client. "Dad says your inventory adjustment instructions are wrong," she said. "No, hello? Hello? Are they wrong? What is the problem? The system won't let me adjust a negative count. The instructions explain how to correct the receiving entry first." "What page?" I don't know. You wrote them. I'm not at the store. She made a sound under her breath. Can't you just log in? Dad removed my access. Right. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then she said, I'll find it. Okay. She didn't apologize. She didn't ask how I was. She also didn't ask me to come over. The next day, Dana texted that Courtney had corrected the count herself. Mom handled purchasing. Dad covered opening shifts. Courtney learned the books and inventory one mistake at a time. The store functioned. Not smoothly at first, and not without complaints, but it opened every morning. I kept the key ring in the top drawer of my desk while they reviewed the transition box. For the first time since Dad gave it to me, no one called to ask me to use it. About 6 weeks later, Mom called on a Tuesday evening. I'd like you to come to dinner Sunday. What's the reason? Dinner. Who will be there? Your father, Courtney, and me. Are there any papers to review? No. Any store questions? No. Any money requests? She took a breath. No, Kelsey. Just dinner. I agreed to come for 1 hour. When I arrived, Courtney's car was parked correctly in the driveway. I parked on the street anyway. Mom had made roast chicken and rice. There were no folders on the table. No envelopes waited beside my plate. Courtney came in late from the store wearing a Knight Hardware polo shirt. There was dirt on one sleeve, and her hair was tied back. Sorry, she said. A customer came in at closing with a broken hose fitting. Dad nodded with approval. You stayed until it was handled. I didn't know which adapter he needed. What did you do? I asked. Dana showed me how to match the thread. She sat across from me. It was the first ordinary conversation we'd had since the luncheon. Dad cleared his throat. The store has been running well. I'm glad. Courtney's learning fast. Courtney looked at him. I'm learning. Mom served the chicken. We ate for several minutes without talking about the credit union. Then Dad put down his fork. I owe you an apology. I waited. He looked directly at me. I told people you had agreed when you hadn't. I thought if the plan was already moving, you'd come around. Mom added, we both did. Dad continued, I also called your client because I was angry. I had no right to interfere with your business. No, you didn't. I know. He didn't ask me to forgive him. He didn't explain that he had been scared. He didn't mention how much of their savings the settlement had taken. Mom folded her hands. I'm sorry I used your grandmother against you. That was harder to answer. Thank you for saying it. Courtney stared at her plate. Dad said, I sent a correction to the employees and the suppliers who attended the lunch. What did it say? That you never agreed to the debt and that I spoke for you without permission. Did you send it to Tom? Yes. And the relatives? Your mother called them. Mom nodded. They know. That action mattered more than the dinner. It didn't restore the lost client or the $6,000 in old expenses. It didn't give me back the years I had treated the store as a second unpaid job. It did put the correction in the same places where the false story had gone. I appreciate that, I said. Courtney finally looked up. I'm still embarrassed. I know. I think you wanted everyone to see Dad's name. I wanted everyone who had been told I agreed to see that I hadn't. You could have warned me exactly what you planned to do. You knew I said no. She pushed rice around her plate. I thought you'd change your mind. That's why the meeting happened. Courtney didn't apologize. She also didn't accuse me of causing the boutique to fail. That was as far as she could go then. At 7, I stood. Mom looked at the clock, but didn't ask me to stay. We'd like to do this again, she said. Maybe? Next Sunday? Not every week. All right. I left before dinner turned into an old routine. The next invitation came 2 weeks later. I went again. Halfway through the meal, Mom mentioned that a supplier invoice didn't match the delivery. She looked at me automatically. Kelsey, could you? Then she stopped. Courtney said, I'll call them in the morning. Mom nodded. Good. Nobody finished the request. That was the first test. The second came when the store held its fall sale. Dad called 3 days beforehand. We're short one person Saturday, he said. I'm not available. I haven't asked yet. You're going to ask me to cover. I was. I can't. He was quiet. All right. No accusation followed. No reminder that the store had once supported me. No call from Mom 5 minutes later. I found out later that Dad worked the register and Courtney handled the loading area. They closed half an hour late and still finished the day. I kept my distance from Night Hardware. I bought supplies somewhere else when I needed them. If I passed the store on Prince Street, I didn't slow down to check whether the front display looked right. I stopped reading Dana's occasional updates as if they were reports I still needed to act on. My bookkeeping practice recovered the lost monthly income by the end of the year. The roofing company added payroll services. 2 of its vendors became clients after the owner recommended me. I upgraded the software I had postponed. I also changed the mailing address on the last account that still listed Night Hardware. My office remained the smallest bedroom in my house, but it felt different once every file inside belonged there. Dad called once to ask where an old supplier contract was stored. In the transition box, supplier folder, I said. Can you come show me? No. The index is on the front page. He found it. The next time he had a question, he called the supplier instead. Mom began asking before discussing Courtney's finances. Is it okay if I tell you something about your sister? Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I said I didn't have room for it that day. She stopped treating either answer as an insult. Courtney stayed at the store. At first, Dad paid her by the hour. Later, he gave her responsibility for receiving and inventory counts. She made mistakes. She corrected them. She started arriving before opening on delivery days. We were not close. She unblocked my number, but most of our messages were about dinner times. Once, she sent a photograph of a shelf count she had balanced and wrote, "I finally understand why negative inventory made you crazy." I replied, "It doesn't make me crazy. It makes the report wrong." She sent back a laughing face. That was not reconciliation. It was a normal exchange, and for a while, normal was enough. Several months after the luncheon, Courtney asked to meet for coffee. She arrived in her store polo and paid for her own drink. "I'm making payments to Mom and Dad," she said. "That's between you and them." "I know. I wanted you to know I'm not pretending they didn't lose money." "All right. I still wish the lunch hadn't happened that way. So do I." She looked surprised. "I thought you'd say we deserved it. I think you created it. That doesn't mean I enjoyed it." Courtney turned her cup between both hands. "I believed you'd fix it." "I know. I didn't think about what that meant for you." That was the closest she came to an apology that day. I accepted the sentence. Not more than the sentence. We finished our coffee and left separately. The family dinners continued about once a month. I attended when I wanted to. If a bill, folder, or assignment appeared at my place, I left it untouched. After a while, nothing appeared. I used to think belonging meant being the person everyone called when something went wrong. It took me a long time to understand that being needed and being respected can look similar until you say no. If you want more stories like mine, subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from. One Friday afternoon, Dad asked me to stop at the store after closing. The front lights were still on when I arrived. Courtney was finishing the register count. Mom stood near the office with her purse. Dad had reviewed every folder in the transition box. "Everything's here," he said. "I told you it was." "I know." He looked at my work bag. "Do you still have the keys?" I took out the brass ring. The front door key had worn a pale line inside my bag. I removed the smaller keys first and placed them on the counter. Dad labeled each one with tape. Only the old brass store key remained. Mom asked whether I was coming to dinner Sunday. "I'll let you know." She nodded. Courtney kept counting bills without asking me to check her total. Dad held out his hand. I placed the last key on his palm and closed my work bag. No folder was waiting for me. No invoice had my name on it. The store stayed open behind me, with its owners and its employee exactly where they had chosen to be. I walked through the front door while the old brass store key rested in Mark's open hand, carrying only my own work bag.